Welcome to Your Questions Answered with Father Gruner. I'm John Veneri. This is a program where you send us your questions and Father Gruner answers them. We have a discussion of them. It's on every day. And so please continue to send your questions at questions@thefatimacenter.com. That's the email address. You can see it on the screen, hopefully here. questions@thefatimacenter.com. Today we have questions about Our Lady's brown scapular. What are the origins? There's really three questions here, and maybe we'll take more than one program to answer them. But what are the origins of Our Lady's brown scapular? How does it pertain to the Fatima message? And also, why do we so seldom hear about the brown scapular in the mainstream church? You don't seem to see anything about the brown scapular, for example, in diocesan newspapers. So let's talk about the brown scapular, the origin of the request.
Okay, well, first of all, before we talk about the origin, let's just show our viewers what a brown scapular is. Now, the strings or the cloth, piece of string that hold this together could be a white color or another color, but the cloth should be brown or black wool. And anyway, you can see it there, and it's worn as like this over the shoulders, and usually it's worn underneath the clothing. I wear my scapular, of course. I've been wearing my scapular continuously since 1965. I think it was March 65 until the present. It's more than, is it 40 years now, 50 years? The brown scapular is very important. In fact, I happen to know something about the brown scapular because where I was invested in is where Our Lady appeared in Aylesford in England in 1251 with the brown scapular. But I'm getting ahead of myself. That is, first of all, so the first question is the origin of the brown scapular. The origin is made of, it's not made of metal, it's made of cloth for a purpose, because this actually goes back to the Old Testament. It goes back to the time of Elias. There's an incident on Mount Carmel where Elias had prayed for a drought, and so there was no rain. And after 3.5 years, why did he do that? Because in my experience, trying to get people's attention with a prophetic message is the hardest job to do. Once you get their attention, they finally might get the point and do something about it. Well, Elias was having the same problem. He couldn't get people to pay attention. So he said, well, you're not going to pay attention. Fine, I'll get your attention, he says. He asked God, no more rain. So God hears Elias, just Elias, and what happens? No rain for 3.5 years. Now Elias has their attention because the price of grain was going up. They couldn't buy grain for all the gold in the world. They had nothing to eat. They're starving. So ultimately, he got their attention. So he at this point decided, well, I've got to pray for rain now. So what's he doing? He's on Mount Carmel. He's a hermit when he's not making his prophecies down in town. He's a hermit up on Mount Carmel, and he's praying for rain, and he thinks he's prayed enough. And he has an assistant with him, and he sends his assistant down the hillside, down to the Dead Sea there, the saltwater sea, and he says, tell me if there's any rain coming. So the man goes down, no rain, walks back up the hill, says, Elias, no rain. So Elias prays a second time, sends his man down the second time, comes back a second time, no rain. Third, fourth, fifth, sixth time. So finally Elias gets serious with his prayers, and the seventh time he sends his man down. And what does the man see on the seventh time? He sees coming out of this saltwater sea a little foot, a cloud, I should say, in the shape of a foot. And this cloud is in the shape of a foot. That's significant. Elias will talk about that in a moment. And it grows and grows and grows until it covers the whole land. And the man runs back up the hill, up Mount Carmel, to get to Elias. But of course, he can't get there fast enough because the cloud overtakes him. Now, Elias understood that this cloud was very significant. It was in the shape of a foot. And this foot signified Our Lady because he knew the prophecy from the first book of the Bible, chapter 3, Genesis, which is that the devil's head would be crushed by the woman's foot. So he formed an order of, or more exactly, a community of hermits living on Mount Carmel, preparing not only for the coming of Christ, but also for the coming of Christ's mother, the one who would crush the serpent's head. So that goes back, so the origins of the scapular. So how does this relate to Elias? Well, Elias wore a garment which the Carmelites still wear today. It's about 10 inches wide, has a hole in the middle, you put over your head. It goes down to it's about 6 or 7 feet long. It goes down to your knees on both sides. So it's over. If I had a full mantle on, as it's called, it would go down to my knees in the front and the back. And so this is just an abbreviated or cut down version of the Elias's mantle.
And the religious orders do call those scapulars too, as well.
When they wear them like this, it's a scapular.
Yeah.
When they wear the full, it's a mantle.
Okay, yeah.
It's so if they wear the mantle, of course, they don't need to wear the scapular because they're wearing the scapular is only an abbreviation of the mantle. So if you see pictures or statues of Saint Teresa of Lisieux, for example, you see she's always got a mantle on because every Carmelite wears a mantle. If they're living their rule, which tells them to wear their mantle all the time. And of course, when they go to bed at night, they take their mantle off, they take their habit off, but they still wear the scapular during the night, like millions of other people, including myself, have done for the last 40 years. So the origin goes back to before Christ, about 1,000 years before Christ, I would think, something like that.
Okay, well, at this point, I think we have to make that part one.
Okay.
And then we'll pick up on the next program to make the connection from the Old Testament to when Our Lady appeared, the
1251.
1251 about the scapular.
Yes.
So we'll be back next time with more about the brown scapular and Our Lady.